Welcome to our weekly Mitzvot Shabbos program. Since it's Mitzvot Shabbos, and we said a few weeks ago that Mitzvot Shabbos is as Gula, say stories of the Baal Shem Tov, and Lav Dafki of the Baal Shem Tov by all tzaddikim. So since now it's between Yutas Kislev and Chanukah, I want to share with you a story about wine. Remember what I once mentioned. Not every story that we hear are true, but it could be true. But this is a story that somebody wrote, I have to the Rabbi. The Rabbi looked the story. The Rabbi answered here, a good answer, but it's private, so I can't say exactly what he answered here. But this is a story that somebody wrote, and he sent it to the Rebbe. So I thought I would read the story to you. He says like this: the Rebbe Shlita, this is written in Yiddish, and I'm translating in English. The Rebbe Shlita Mitzoi Achrin Shal Pesach, after the Farbringen of Suda Shal Mashiach, years ago, the Rebbe gave me a bottle of wine, and he said it should be for a refuah, for a cure. I didn't know, he writes, if the Rebbe meant a refuahs hanefesh or refuahs haguf, a cure for the soul or a cure for the body. Like in Bon Chayim Zein Revicha. Many years passed, and the wine was standing by me in my house. And I thought, the Rebbe didn't give me wine that should stand in the house, but we should give it to other people. So there was a Mlava Malka was made, he writes, and they called out that we have wine from the Rebbe Shlita for a refuah. And we're going to give out the wine at this Mlava Malka. So more people came to get the wine for themselves, and also for the Bnei Bayis, for their wife and children. Months later, a Yid came to me that he heard that I have wine, that he has a sick wife, and I have wine for the Rebbe. He lives in Borough Park, he writes here, and he said that I have wine for the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he wanted to give him the wine for refuah for his wife. He was as far to Sharid. So he gave him. Another Eid came, he heard, he says that I'm going through a very difficult operation. So he wants the wine of the Rebbe for a bracha. So I told him, you're a Yid, but you have your store open, you have a laundromat open on Shabbos. So you are a Mechalel Shabbos. So if Mechalel Shabbos touches the wine becomes Yayin Nesach like a goy. Like a goy would have touched it. So when you drink the wine, it's Yayin Nesach. So you have an Aveil, he says. But when you will close your laundromat, I'll give you the Rebbe's wine, and then you can drink the wine, you'll become a Shem Shabbos. So I'll give you the Rebbe's wine. So this person closed his laundromat, and he became healthy. But after a while, he needed Mesiras Nefesh, because he lost a lot of money because the laundromat was closed on Shabbos. There was a lot of going there, so he needed a broch. He didn't a parnasa. So the Rebbe helped him. That somebody came with a new machine of wash chemicals, and he got the machine, and he was matzliach, and he had parnasa barchove. So this wine became a refuah's hanefesh. He became a shomer Shabbos, and also it became a refuah's haguf. He became healthy, and then he said l'chaim. This is what the person writes to the Rebbe, and he said l'chaim. So this wine. You never know when the Rebbe gives wine. There's always a reason. So this is what I thought I would read to you. Now, speaking about drinking, since we're in the middle between Yud Kislev and Chanukah, it's a time of Fabringenish. So I found over here a question people asked and the Rebbe answered. It says here the question. This is written in Hebrew. There are those who ask why the Rebbe specifically chose to send Benedictine, which is, as is well known, is produced by monks. The secret held by them, and how can we be sure that it is kosher? You know, the Rebbe used to have Benedictine in his table, and the Friedrich Rebbe had, and also the Rebbe Rashab had. But it's made by monks, so how do we know that they don't put in wine? That's what they asked the Rebbe. So the Rebbe answered, it was customary already for a number of years by my father-in-law, Admur, and also by his father, the Rebbe Nishma Satan, the previous Rebbe's father, Rebbe Rashab, to use Benedictine, and they had visited a number of times in the country where this liqueur is produced, and there was never a doubt regarding suspicion of being mixed with wine. Also, it is clear that the method of production has not changed. That's number one. Also, there was a few years ago further investigation into the matter which confirmed that original finding to be true, that Benedictine is kosher. The Rebbe always used. Nevertheless, even though it was customary in the house of my father, of the Rebbe's father, Levi Yitzchak, over generations, and there is a reason which I will not go into this, I would not renew this custom. So there was a time that the Rebbe used it, no problem, but the Rebbe stopped all of a sudden. The Rebbe says he's not going to reveal. But I do want to say, again, I'm saying maybe. There was once, and that was the last time the Rebbe used Benedictine. Somebody gave the Rebbe a bottle of Benedictine. On the bottle, there's a little sign. There's a little Tzelom cross. And look, so the person, or he mentioned, or he said out loud, or somebody mentioned, and the Rebbe overheard that there is a Tzelom on the. That's it. I think that was the last time that the Rebbe used that bottle. I don't know if that's the reason, but that's what happened. And this reminds me also about Knedlach. You know, Pesach, and the waiter served by the Seder, served soup. You know, Chabad doesn't use Gebrot, we don't use Knedlach. So the waiter or somebody mentioned, it was a potato, from potato, something made, looks like a knedel. So somebody mentioned, it's cooked tuisa, looks like a knedel. The Rebbe pushed away the plate, and he didn't eat it. Even if he said, it looks like that. So maybe this is the reason I don't know. But this is good to know. I am pleased, he writes, that there are people, the Rebbe said, who are very careful with mitzvahs such as these, if only they would be as careful with all positive and negative mitzvahs. I think this is a little musar. Some people are careful that they would not touch Benedictine now. There's nothing really wrong with it. But the Rebbe said, but some people, since the Rebbe doesn't use it, they're big chassidim and they wouldn't use it. So the Rebbe said, halavai, they should do other mitzvahs like this. This reminds me, we learned in Parsha Teilis when the Esav, after Yaakov took the blessing, the brachas of Yitzchak, Esav came to Yaakov and said, give me the brachas. So Yitzchak said to him, V'hoyo kasher torid ufarakto ula mi'alza orecho. When the Yidden are going to stop doing the mitzvahs, then use your sword on them. This is a big problem. We have the brachas that Esav took out from Yitzchak, that if Yidden don't do Torah mitzvahs, the Goyim will use the sword. So I heard once a word, V'hoyo kasher torid. Torid is top phrase Yud Daled. 614. There are 613 mitzvahs. When a person will try to be Torid, will try to add, he's more religious, try to be frimer, maybe these people, they try to be frum. Benedictine is kosher. They want to be like the Rebbe. I don't know if it's the Rebbe. I think this is what the Rebbe means over here. Now, also reminds me, I mentioned once, by the Seder, by the Rebbe upstairs in 770, we don't eat gebrokts. There was a Yid standing there, not Chabad, and he eats gebrokts. And he doesn't know that we cannot eat gebrokts, because la halacha, you're allowed to eat gebrokts. So they gave borscht, soup, beets, red. So he took a piece of matzah and he dipped it in the borscht. There was Bochum standing there, became a whole commotion. Imagine by the Rebbe's table. But the Yid didn't know. They didn't know what the commotion was. So the previous Rebbe turned around to the Bochum and he said, it's better to make the matzah red than the face red. I mean, the Yid was maybe a little embarrassed. But to embarrass is worse. To put matzah in borscht, we don't do it. It's not our minhag. But it's not as bad as embarrassing somebody. So sometimes we take things and we do the opposite and it becomes not the opposite. This is one question, the same page. Another question. In certain circles here, we are close to the courtyard of Lubavitch. They are speaking about the strong Hafotzes Hamayonis. This is from the Hebrew. Somebody wrote that in Lubavitch, Redmond, they speak that now, this was in the early years, about when the Rabbi came out with a Uforatzto, the Nigun Uforatzto, about Hafotzes Hamayonis. That's what the beginning of Hafotzes Hamayonis. So somebody wrote to the Rebbe that in Chabad Yard, the Hoif, Chabad Yard, is they speak about Hafotzes Hamayonis. So he said, spreading the wellspring of, as they usually describe the activities Chabad people, are there any concrete, practical plans for Hafotzes Hamayonis? So here's the Rebbe, are they plans how the Rebbe would do the Hafotzes Hamayonis in the Chabad Hoif, the Chabad Yard? That's the word, Chabad Yard, he mentioned. Of course, when you mention the Rebbe Avot, has to be correct. If it's Chabad Yard, it has to be, what does it be Chabad Yard? So the Rebbe answered, there is a great principle in all matters of goodness and holiness. Increase in holiness, Mailim B'Kodesh. Certainly the people of Chabad are aiming with all their might to live up to their principle. But here I take issue with the use of the term chotzer, yard, when it is used in connection with Hasidus in general, and with Chabad in particular. The connotation of the term chotzer, courtyard, is that of a passageway between the street and the house. A yard is a passageway between the street and the house. That's called a yard. But this is not what Hasidus should be compared to. Hasidus should not be compared to a chotzer, to a yard, but rather it's compared to a house full of the light and warmth of Torah mitzvahs and love of a fellow Jew, not a courtyard. The Rebbe mentioned the word courtyard. The Rebbe had this very important every word, which is an expression coined by the early Maskilim. The Maskilim used to use the Enlightenment, and even more so, the house of Lubavitch is wide open to all who wish to be warmed with the light of Torah and mitzvahs in the spirit of Hasidus. So this is called it's not called a yard. The Rebbe took issue with the Indian of called a yard. You have to be very careful in words. Now, talking about, the last few, talking about words, by the Rebbe, Mashal, I hear speakers say the word Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava. And the Rebbe writes in a place, as a correction, there is no there's Adam, but Chava comes from the word Aim Kol Chai. She's the mother of all living. By the world, Chava is called Eve. Eve comes from the word, the original English, evil. So it has to be corrected. You can't say Adam and Eve, because Eve is, I would say the same thing also, mention somewhere funeral, a levaya. You accompany the body. But the reason that some people say funeral, because it comes from fumes, used to burn the body, fumes. So every word is important. Every word. Or you say the word G. Oh, G. G is ish. We don't say that. So you have to learn from here how, from the Rebbe, how every word, the people should be careful what they say. This is what I wanted to bring out tonight. In Mitzvah next week, we'll continue our weekly program. Thank you.